Let's go back in time. 12,000 years ago, the Earth, it was a totally different planet. Continents were ruled by animals so massive they make our modern wildlife look tiny. I mean, we're talking about real giants walking the land, predators the size of cars. And for a little while, humans lived right there, alongside them. And then, just like that, they were gone. So what happened? How did this incredible world of giants just vanish? This wasn't some long, drawn-out process. It was fast, shockingly fast. This wasn't a gradual decline that took millions of years. And it wasn't just a simple case of a few species getting unlucky and being picked off. No, this happened in what's basically a geological blink of an eye. 2/3 of all the big animal species on the entire planet just vanished. So the real question, the real mystery, is how? How could so many giants disappear so quickly? Well, today we usually get pretty simple explanations. The two usual suspects, right? It was either climate change or it was human hunting. But honestly, the truth is way more complex. And frankly, a lot more interesting. Because these incredible animals didn't disappear because of just one thing. They disappeared because everything went wrong, all at the exact same time.
Okay, so let's really get into this. To understand this mass extinction, you have to see it as a perfect storm. It's a principle we can call the combination effect, where a bunch of different factors all converged at once to make survival pretty much impossible.
See, the giants had a fatal weakness. To get that big and to stay that big, they needed a world that was fundamentally stable. They needed huge territories to roam, they needed enormous amounts of food to eat, and they needed really long lifespans just to have kids and keep the population going. They were titans, but they were titans built for a world that never changed. And then the world changed, violently. As the Ice Age ended, temperatures just shot up and down like crazy. Those huge grasslands that the giants relied on, they started to shrink, replaced by new kinds of forests. And at the very same time, a new, super adaptable predator started spreading across the planet. Us. And it wasn't about there being millions and millions of humans. It was just enough of us to push these already fragile ecosystems right over the edge.
So the key here is to see how this perfect storm actually played out on the ground. Let's do this. Let's open up the case files on some of the giants who ended up paying the ultimate price. And you've got to start with the most famous giant of them all, right? The woolly mammoth. These things stood over 13 feet tall, and they were perfectly adapted to the cold, right up until the cold went away. The mammoth was suddenly fighting a war on two fronts. First, as the climate warmed up, the vast cold grasslands they ate just withered away. They were replaced by forests they couldn't survive in. At that exact moment, humans, who were persistent hunters, showed up on the scene. And here's the thing, because mammoths took so long to reproduce, years to raise a single baby, even losing a few here and there was devastating. A couple of bad seasons, a few lost young, that was enough to send a whole population into a death spiral it couldn't pull out of. The mammoth wasn't wiped out by a single enemy. It was crushed by the combination of a changing world and constant pressure. All right, let's move to our next case, and you'll see how this all starts to connect. Meet the giant ground sloth. Some of these guys were taller than modern elephants, and for their entire existence, they had absolutely no reason to be afraid of anything. And that lack of fear, well, that became its downfall. As the climate shifted, the forests where they casually browsed for food started to change, messing with their whole food supply. And then humans arrived. For these huge, slow-moving animals that had never needed an escape plan, we were a brand new, terrifying kind of threat. They were just too slow, too trusting, and way too unprepared for a predator that could think and work as a team. In a new world where speed and cunning suddenly mattered, the sloth was absolutely doomed. So we've seen what happened to the giant plant eaters, but this raises a really critical question for the whole food web. What happens to the top predators when their entire menu just disappears? And that brings us to one of the most fearsome predators to ever walk the earth, Smilodon, the saber-toothed cat. And this wasn't just any predator. This was a highly evolved lethal specialist. Smilodon was basically a masterpiece of evolution, built for one thing and one thing only: hunting giants. Its whole life was about taking down mammoths, bison, and those giant sloths. So when its prey vanished, its only food source was gone. This animal didn't starve because it was weak. It starved because the world it had completely mastered just collapsed from the bottom up. The thing about top predators is they're always the last to fall, and they almost always fall the hardest. So, as we pull these case files together, a really clear picture starts to form. This wasn't a simple murder mystery with one killer. This was a case of everything going wrong all at once. And it all comes back to that combination effect. The Great Extinction wasn't caused by a single silver bullet. It was caused by the simultaneous and devastating convergence of rapid environmental change, new and relentless human pressure, and the complete collapse of the stable ecosystems that giants depended on. These were basically the four horsemen of this particular apocalypse. You had rapid environmental change, you had unrelenting human pressure, collapsing ecosystems, and just catastrophic instability. The Earth didn't slowly lose its giants. It simply overwhelmed them. And once that delicate balance was broken, there was just no going back. And this ancient catastrophe has some really profound implications for the world we're living in right now. This is not just some story about the distant past. Think about this. The planet we inhabit, the wildlife we see, the ecosystems that function all around us, all of it is shaped by this incredible loss. We are literally living in the world that was left over after the giants fell. And that leaves us with a final, pretty sobering thought. Every one of these extinct giants is a stark reminder that our planet is capable of profound and incredibly rapid change. Earth has hit the reset button before, and it can absolutely do it again.